Ladies and gentlemen, before we break for much awaited lunch, here we open for a quick question answer round. And I request Sameer sir, our chairman SKOCH, to kindly lead this round. आप में से अगर कोई भी कुछ पूछना चाहे, आज जितने भी सेशंस हुए हैं, हमारे जितने भी स्पीकर्स यहाँ पर आए हैं, आप कुछ भी पूछना चाहें ज़रूर पूछ सकते हैं.
इतना सारा प्रेजेंटेशन, कुछ तो सवाल होगा.
A very good afternoon, Dr. Ms. Sameerji. I'm Dr. V.P. Yadav. I'm Chairman, Board of School Education, Haryana. I had been going through, observing all the presentations which have been made. What I could see, there was a concern expressed about what's happening and how we need to go about it. But at this point of time, when so much is happening specifically in respect to AI, in terms of even in defense, use of AI in defense, it's a matter of big concern for a country like India, which has not really made so much of inroads into AI, but we are in the process of it. So I would request, what do you say, where are we have got addresses to the problems are not there in this? There were concerns which were expressed. So how do we go about expressing or addressing those concerns which are already very challenging for us?
Okay, so if you look at the concerns that there are related to AI, they are global. Second thing is that I do not believe the narrative at all that India has not done well in AI. There is a recent report which positions India at number 80 in terms of AI preparedness. I completely disagree with it. The reason for that is I had already mentioned the problems with the e-governance index and why it is against India and why India's situation there should be number 17 and not number 105. And the AI index actually also takes from e-governance index. So the conclusion itself is incorrect. In fact, India has done a lot of work on AI. So if you look at AI is a vast subject. So there are things like development of large language models, which take a lot of mainframe computer, compute capability, etc. And in those areas, the big tech companies in the USA and Europe have a significant advantage over India. But that itself doesn't mean very much. What is important is the use cases. So if you look at how you are going to use that model in defense, how are you going to use that model in other sectors is what is key. I'll give you an example. Part of our center of excellence, we are doing use cases for AI. So like we are having this conference, we have everything available on video, right? And I have this lot of unstructured data, which is video, PDF, etc., which is available to me. And if I want to query that, I can very effectively do that using AI. But there is no use case or no single software that can transcribe all the videos, give the highlights. Suppose within this I want to say, okay, so what are the educational challenges in Gurgaon district or New district in Haryana? And maybe there is a presentation. So the AI should be able to deep dive into the knowledge repository I have and answer that. That this is what the problem is.
This is was not exactly my concern. Specifically, how much of AI is being used in transforming education?
So that is where I'm saying in India on education, I don't know, but for other use cases, we are looking at it. And one of the things we are trying to do is sensitize everybody, including the government, on how this can be done better. And more than how to do it better, what are the guardrails that are required? Because AI is a double-edged sword. Like somebody else was mentioning, it is based on our current knowledge. So if you look at the current generation, whatever we know, वो सब हमने सिखा दिया AI को, पर उसके बाद हम लोग खुद ही सीखना बंद कर दिया because we're using AI. So after 5 years, 6 years, whatever the AI knows will only still be obsolete because nothing new would happen. So there is nothing that can replace people. If at all, more than AI, we need protection for humanities, culture, and context. These are the big problems, that how are we going to train AI on that. And if you look at culture, context, ethics, morality, then India will have the lead. And that is where I think education system is going to benefit very, very substantially. Are we doing it? The answer is no. Is anybody else doing it? Answer is also no. So it is a level playing field. Anyone can get started, and uh, you could get started in Haryana, and somebody else could do, and we could learn with each other.
At the Board of School Education Haryana have initiated a process because of specifically evaluation and assessment of answer scripts through AI, because human beings have a lot of mood swings, specifically mood swings, while assessing the answer scripts written by the students.
Yeah.
That is the process we are on doing.
Yeah, so that is an objective assessment. So that is very good with AI.
Yeah.
Very, very good. But if you are doing a subjective assessment, it may not be so good. But that's a very good use case that you've mentioned. Sanjay, you'd like to say something?
Yeah, in fact, in education system, instead of so what's happening, our traditional system is like, if I want to learn something and get certified, there's a set of topics there. And that may have something that I already know of, but why should I go through? So there's a concept of adaptive learning. At regular interval, the system will check what is my knowledge level, and accordingly forward those topics only, and I don't need to go through the entire thing. So what happens is, I learn new things, my learning duration gets reduced, and context and relevant topics come forward for me to get certified fast. So this is something that a lot of work is happening it. Second is that many times we do search on a keyword and say we want to learn this within the education, within the institution or publicly, but that keyword may have different context altogether. So the context-based topics being picked up and offered as courses is another area where AI is slowly helping to modernize this education system.
Yeah, but just to add, Sanjay, I think what the gentleman is talking about is made a fantastic use case of evaluating answers to
Absolutely.
exams.
Talking about written hand scripts which have to be evaluated
Yes.
based on value points and the analysis and the feedback given to AI.
Absolutely,
And
that's
it's
it.
automatically learning and
Learning.
improving upon itself. So this will eliminate any sort of indiscrepancy specifically while checking answer script, because teachers have a lot of mood
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Swings. Yeah. That's it. It will ensure uniformity.
So that's a beautiful use case, and if you actually extrapolate it and make some changes, it also addresses your neat kind of problems.
True.
So it's fantastic. So this is exactly, so we are creating a knowledge repository under Excellence Center of what people are doing in India with AI and how we can promote it to a larger context, how other states can learn from it, how competitive exams can learn from it, which is a burning problem. And surely your work is going to be very, very, very useful in that. Yeah, you had a question, ma'am? Yeah.
Sir, my biggest takeaway from this summit would be कि AI विचार कर सकता है, अचार नहीं बना सकता. Very valid points. And one thing, sir, when we are talking about intelligence, so we have IQ, and when we talk about AI, do we have anything called like AIQ, and measuring the quotient for artificial intelligence? And when we talk about service providers from the government side or the program implementation, how do we see that there's always been a debate between IQ and EQ, where we talk about emotional quotient also, where that brings us as humans or the human values. So would there be a day where we integrate IQ, we would be having an emotional quotient for the AI also?
I hope not. That's what I'm banking on. That is why people remain relevant. As far as IQ of AI, I think Sanjay can better answer that, but it will be limited to the data set that is fed into it, is my thinking.
Sir, I have a submission here now, because IQ builds upon the experiences which it experiences over the time. Right now, the AI is going to have emotional quotient into it in the days to come, the way it is being developed at this point of time.
I hope not, but I can't stop
It cannot
technology if
replace
that
human
happens.
being. It could be an aid to it that will always remain. But AI is getting emotional, or what is called
Emotionally sound.
emotional savvy over the time. It will become.
That is scary.
It's going to be crazy, but it's going to be true in the days to come.
Actually, AIQ kind of thing is a good visionary thing, and I think it will eventually happen. Currently, where industry is moving towards is AI maturity model. That's in place. But AIQ will happen. A lot of discussions I have seen in the forums happening, and people are looking at it.
But sir, tell me, you're saying it addresses that problem of mood swings of teachers. But if AI gets emotions and AI gets a mood swing, then
Exactly, you have got a valid point, sir. But what happens is the mood swings of AI are not like the human beings because it does not get affected by external factors. Suppose if I have some idea comes into my mind that I had a tussle with so and so. Suppose as a teacher, I had a tussle with another teacher, and that creeps into my mind, automatically that's going to affect my mood swings. But AI will be having an immunity from this sort of mood swings. It will not, but it will uniformly have assessment system.
okay, wonderful. But let me share once again with you an example started in the morning. कि AI HR नहीं डाल सकता. So I had actually posted this query. So somebody on LinkedIn. So somebody took out a recipe for मीठा आम का अचार AI ने बनाई है, आप देख लीजिए. वो खाने लायक नहीं थी. मैं बताता हूँ रेसिपी आपको. जिसने भी खाने की थोड़ी भी वो 2 आम इतने इतने होते हैं, उसमें 1/4 कप मेथरे, 1/4 कप सौंफ, 1/4 कप राई और 1/4 कप कलौंजी और 1/4 कप तेल आप डालिए और उसका अचार बनता है. मैं कहा भाई साहब इतनी कलौंजी आपने 2 आम में डाल दी तो कोई नहीं खाएगा, कड़वा हो जाएगा. तो फॉर्चुनेटली, सो दैट इज आई सेड AI HR नहीं डाल सकता. सो वाइल टेक्निकली द फॉर्मूला में बी करेक्ट, द टेस्ट implications of that AI may not be aware of,
Because
and I
even-
hope that does not happen. नहीं तो हमारा अचार नहीं बिकेगा.
Because that's also right, sir. What happens is, as an Indian, the achar which I taste may not be very tasty for a person from England or any other part of the country, because our taste also differs.
Yeah, no, but in this case it will be inedible for anyone, but it will be bitter.
Yeah, it's a aid to us.
अब
It's not
मैडम
a
तो मुझे
replacement
कलौंजी
for us.
कड़वी होती
Thank
है
you.
ना, तो 2 आम में आपने 1/4 कप कलौंजी डाल दी और सर को खिलाओ अचार फिर. और मेरे लिंक्डइन में टाइमलाइन में मैं मतलब ऐसे नहीं बोल रहा हूँ, मेरी टाइमलाइन पे लिखा हुआ किसी ने रेसिपी डाली है.
Yeah, we need to
तो मैं
use.
इसको खाएगा कौन?
Right. Now, human intelligence with AI intelligence need to
Is
be
very
compatible.
important. So that
It's
is what I am
important.
banking on. Yeah, there's a question at the back here.
The question on the AIQ which was asked, something of that form is already there, right? I mean, if you look at the Gen AI journey that is going on, and also in the artificial intelligence and machine learning, we used to measure accuracy of the algorithm outcome, and currently we measure hallucination of the outcome. So if the Gen AI algorithm is looking at data points which are probably not fully validated or fully relevant for that situation, there will be higher hallucination in the outcome. So in a industrial environment, in a corporate environment, that's a scary situation. For example, in a pharma environment, when you are doing outcomes for a manufacturing or even an R&D activity, if there is hallucination, there is just not going to be acceptable. It has to be 0% hallucination. So this is a form of an AIQ that you mentioned. But as Mr. Kochhar was saying, EQ, I also hope that it doesn't really make too much inroads. But funnily enough, a couple of weeks ago, there was a report, I think it was in Japan or something, one robot committed suicide. South Korea, I think, right? But I think it was just a interpretation of what happened to that machine. I think that machine broke down and died. And somebody made up a story that it committed suicide.
No, there was
right?
also a story that some translation which was rather vulgar was given in France, and the AI says this is too vulgar to translate.
Yeah.
So they'll start,
IQ
start
is
having
there.
opinion. So I don't know where it is going. I don't like AI. Maybe people of my age don't like AI. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Myself, Dr. Gagan, MD, Bihar State Warehousing Corporation.
Ji.
Sir, I will take this AI question to risk management, because SDGs and MDGs, both of them have some emphasis on disaster relief. How we are going to manage the risk of data? Data security we talked of. But there are many issues, like risk is a very myriad subject. It's not like one thing. Risk can be in a different form. It can be in terms of a disaster victim, or it can be in terms of a leakage of a data. So how did Scotch go for any study on risk itself, risk management, or just on the developmental paradigm based on the data only?
Yeah.
Was it risk management taking into account the DRR and the DM issues, or only the data issue?
So I'll start the answer, but it will be completed by Sanjay and Sriji, since it's their subject. How SKOCH Group has gone about is we've set up a task force, so which has people from the government, from people from the civil society, people from the private sector, CIOs from the private sector, government sector, academics, colleges, so on and so forth. And together we are discussing these problems and coming out with a framework. So the framework that Sanjay shared actually looks at all these aspects. It looks at, Sanjay, you can now complete. I told you the process. Process is consultative across all stakeholder groups, and then you make a presentation, it is discussed, more inputs taken, and then it is published, and then we say, this is how we're going to go about doing it.
Maybe 1% of that was cyber security and ransomware. That in itself has a complete framework which looks at a hybrid approach, what you talked about. Do we look at just the data, or we look at some kind of other measures to come into place? It's both ways. You also need to keep your eyes open to look at the data, look at the intrusion, look at the attacks, look at some anomalies, look at different activities that are happening which are not normal, so that you avoid it, prevent it. But in certain cases, you are not able to do so. Then how efficient your measures are to ensure you are able to recover. And that recovery itself is another framework which starts all the way from the data entry and goes till the life cycle management. Yes, all of these are there. Maybe I can share, at a later date.
So one of the things we are also going to do is whatever we discussed under corporate digital responsibility and these risk frameworks, we are also going to be offering consulting services for this. So if you need somebody to come in and take a look at your data management practices, etc. So that SKOCH Group would be doing with people like Shriji, who's got a lot of expertise in that. Shriji, can we do that? So you want to say something about how we can make his data more bulletproof, or what is possible?
So that framework that was presented has a lot of research that had gone in and the data behind that. Now, if somebody wants to really look at it and adopt and use it, we should be able to help them understand the nitty-gritties of that and how to actually apply that in their sector, in their business, and then contextualize it for them. So that is something which we can do.
The biggest question for all the indices would be, how do I implement it? So not only are we making the indices, we are also going to offer services to consult to help you adopt some of these indices. And I'm sure it will become a practice. If McKinsey can do it, Big Four can do it, KPMG can do it, why can't SKOCH do it? We understand this country better, right? Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm Jai Vibhav. I'm Managing Director of Karnataka State Mineral Corporation.
Sir.
I just wanted to throw some light, seeking some queries, especially the contribution of CSR in changing the SDG. If we look at the CSR policies under the Companies Act, it is quite wide. We can keep spending to various sectors, which runs in hundreds of indices. With this data intelligence or data science, is there a possibility to find out the need-based spending in the critical areas where CSR need to be spent in the SDG? Among the SDG, I wish, can there be a report or an input to the industries and also to the profit-making companies, which works out as an index where we can spend on priority. So like we keep spending 2%, 3%, I mean, whatever is there. Whatever proposal comes, we keep giving and we keep spending. But where is the priority? The priority index I'm not finding in the SDG, or if it comes in the form of a policy from the government about, or some journals, that these are the priorities. It would definitely help out in bringing out the true spirit and meaning of Viksit Bharat.
Well, government is a very big body. So there is no one person that represents government's view. So if you ask each ministry what is the priority, they'll give you a list of their service areas, and this is the priority. And when everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority. So there was something that was done by the government earlier. They pointed out aspirational districts as a priority, as an area which they would like to encourage. And a lot of CSR went into that, and we studied it, and we found that the rate of poverty decline in aspirational district was faster than other districts because of all these implementations that happened. But the problem is that that is government's social objective. That may not be corporate social objectives. Corporate social objective has to be an enlightened self-interest that also in some way or the other gives back a return to you. So the CSR therefore got transformed into ESG, environment, social and governance. So CSR says you can't make money on it, but in ESG you have no problem making money on whatever social you're doing. So I think CSR is going to be eventually subsumed into ESG, because CSR is a very Indian concept. It doesn't exist in any other country. And the minute you do that, you will have your answer. Since you're in mineral development, I assume that involves mining. If that involves mining, then what are the communities impacted and what is it that you can do for them? So your answers will become very clear. So I think if you are a business, your job is not to solve the country's problem. Your job is to solve the problem your business is causing, and do that. If all of us take care of the harm that we are doing, then the country would be better. So I would say that you yourself will be a better person to figure out what should be your interventions than Government of India telling you to spend on aspirational districts. Because what happens is, while it is a very good idea, then CSR becomes a tax. So you say 2% CSR, then they say, no, this year you do in aspirational districts. So next year you say you do on toilets. The year after you do on schools. That is not how development sector works. You can't focus on a toilet in 1 year and then stop it and then work on school on the next year and then work on aspirational district in the third. Unfortunately, that's how government works, because priority change. But if you're in business and there is this community which is next to your business, which is getting impacted by what you're doing. So suppose you're taking the literacy issues, health issues, livelihood issues, transportation issues, that is going to have a lasting impact. So which is what we are saying. Do what you can do. Enlightened self-interest is best that we can deal with. In India, we do a lot of things dharm ke naam pe. In last conference, we had people from Gujarat Gas who were saying they give free gas to all the crematorium in Ahmedabad. So I said, do you count it as your green credit? They said, no, wo to hum dharm ke naam pe karte hain. I said, but it is saving so much of carbon. You should count it. So I think this mindset, if anything we have to learn from the West, is to count our charity and quantify it. All these generations we've done charity, we've never counted it. They do this little. And they say, oh, carbon neutral, so many kilos, this is what I did. We do 10 times more than that. Why don't we count that? And do it in your vicinity so that it is measurable. Somebody is able to do that. I hope I've answered your question.
More or less.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
In the morning, you have shown the different indices, and wonderful, whatever recommendation you have made, because India is lag behind as far as the across the countries, so in different indices. So whatever indicators you have recommended, wonderful, it is very good. And in my view, such indicators should be adopted. But what do you think? Because these, whatever global indices are made by the UN DESA, I think so. So what do you think, whatever recommendations you have made, it is, who will adopt it? So have you presented these indicators before the NITI, before the MOSPI, before any other agencies?
Well, for the first we are presenting it to you. So today is the first presentation. Sachin Chaturvedi, who was sitting here from RIS, he's working on a task force with MOSPI, and MOSPI is aware of this work. So, in fact, the secretary would have been here, but he had another engagement. So, they're pretty clued on. Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council was also here. But as I said, government is a very large system. No one can decide what is. So, we actually have to create a widespread support. If you believe in it, you should talk about it. Each one in this room should talk about how much sense these indices make. And once we do that, then you will find that they will get adopted and discussed. The problem, as I said, is that, see, if you are an economist and you are working in India, your biggest aspiration in life is to go and work for IMF or World Economic Forum or World Bank or something. Now, if sitting in India, you're opposing their index, why would they give you a job? Why would they even give you funding? So there is no funding mechanism in India for all this. I have done all these indices. How much of research has gone into it? I have got not 1 rupee from the government for doing this. I have not got 1 rupee from the private sector for doing this. So there is no funding mechanism. First of all, we have to discover patriotism. Once you do that, then everything else will follow. But patriotism is not India-Pakistan match, no? It has to go beyond that. So these are very big problems. Institutionally, as I said, there is no ministry looking after social sciences. So how is it that an economist is measuring hunger? आप भूखे रहे हो कभी? I have known hunger first time. First 16 years of my life, कभी एक time खाना मिला, कभी नहीं मिला. So that knowing hunger first time is very, very different than knowing it in a spreadsheet. That so many percentage of people are hungry. So that is a context that needs to come in.
इंडिया के पर्सपेक्टिव में देखते हैं तो हंगर तो 2 स्क्वायर मील इज़ वन ऑफ द इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग आई थिंक उसमें उन्होंने न्यूट्रिशन और कई चीज़ें उसमें ली हैं सो ऑलरेडी द डिस्कशन हैज़ ऑलरेडी बीन मेड इन एज फार एज द हंगर इंडेक्स इज कंसर्न
Yeah, so we are saying change it, because it's a different value. What does hunger mean? It means different things in different context. उसका न्यूट्रिशन वैल्यू है कि नहीं वो देखो ना, तो उसमें फिर अंडरवेट चिल्ड्रन कितने हैं वो देखो. Something which is directly relationship. If you say कि I'll measure child stunting and I'll not measure underweight, then it's your problem. What can I do?
All indicators are good for the global south, I think so.
They are for global south. Yeah. If I say you are measuring underweight here, why don't we measure overweight in your country and say that overweight is also bad? So your hunger index should be very bad because you're overfeeding your people. So that is the kind of work we really have to do. We have to find a balance somewhere. कि सारी दुनिया के हिस्से का तो आप खा गए, तो हमारे तो पतले ही होंगे ना. I mean, look at the size of American servings. Our burger is that big. Any other questions? So I think we've had a very good, useful conversation. This is called Sing for Your Supper. I know you are all here for the awards and the following ceremony, but we force feed patriotism for half a day before we get into the award and reward. And there's also a lot of mutual learning. So with that, we break for lunch. We'll take about an hour. There's no hurry. We have enough time. आप खाना खाइए, बतियाइए, एक दूसरे से मिलिए. जब हमें लगेगा कि सबने बहुत कर लिया, then we'll reassemble.